talking into the mic.
Check, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, the Thunder have traded Russell Westbrook to the Rockets for Chris Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Holy crap.
What a night.
Chris Paul is going to be mad, boy.
Yeah. Check 1, 2, testing, check.
Check, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, testing, check.
What's up, everybody? God, we got 15 in here already.
What, do y'all not have lives or something? Like,
Is there some sort of breaking news?
It's not like anything's going on here.
Who is there? Come on. I think we'll lead with Emerson Hindman. What do y'all think? Sounds like a good. Are the twos playing?
What up, party people?
I think we're going to lead with Atlanta United too.
Whoa.
Whose computer is that?
Hello.
This one. There we go. All right. How do we sound, guys?
Do we sound good?
Everybody sound fantastic?
Is it still echoing, Elliot? Because
It shouldn't be echoing.
Yeah, we should have turned them all up.
Still, we're good
Sounds
now?
good. All right.
Okay, it was just a delay.
Gentlemen, are ready?
There's nothing to talk about. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a boring show. Sorry.
All right.
Psych!
What's up, Atlanta? This is the Mountains of South podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer in the palatial 680 The Fan studio. Josh Bagriansky next to me, Sam Franco in front of me. And we were going to start with some, funny Dread God moment for me. I'm the Dread God. I was going to fake introduce myself as the Dread God, but Biddy went to hell and decided to screw all my plans up. I threw out the rundown, decided, screw it, we're just going to wing the entire thing. We're going to do it live. And we're doing it live.
Or did you sit there and say, it'd be better rather to introduce myself as the Dread God, just make it clear I am, and let's have PT. And
we were gonna have fun with the whole Orlando, and we're definitely going to lose in the semifinals to Orlando. But screw all that because PT decided to have himself a moment on Argentine radio.
When did this? Because I pulled into the parking deck and I saw you posted something on the Twitter. We're throwing the rundown. We're throwing everything out the window, and I'm thinking, what happened?
Yeah, I was like, what the heck?
We were going to talk about Women's World Cup a little bit.
Yeah, Emerson Hindman.
Obviously, we talk about last night. Emerson Hindman. We were going to talk about the changes in CONCACAF a little bit. We were going to talk about there were nuggets here and there.
Some way, somehow, this is Eric's fault.
But no, Petey decided again to have himself a moment. Decided, screw Atlanta United and all their fan base.
Eric is angry again, so this should be a fun show. You get angry at the end.
I have no idea what decorum and professionalism is.
Well,
I don't know.
That's nothing new.
I don't know if it's that drastic, but certainly
it's drastic.
Well,
he's not happy.
I would truly be shocked.
This is a bombshell, more or less.
If he's still playing with Atlanta United come anytime soon.
Really?
I don't think he's playing on Sunday.
I disagree with that. But
I think he's playing on Sunday after the comments he just made.
Yeah, he's too good.
He's too good?
You can't keep him out. Yeah. You can't.
He's coming off of maybe his best game of the season.
Yeah, and that's the funny part about it is I remember last night thinking, okay, maybe we're finally starting to see him come.
So turn a corner.
He bought himself an inch and just crushed it all away.
So
after all these comments.
My understanding is, because like I said, I've probably learned about this 10 minutes ago, was that he goes on, is it Argentine radio?
That's what it seems.
And makes a slew of comments about how he and Frank DeBoer don't get along. He's not happy.
So do you want the the gist of everything?
You're the translation czar, man.
I want to do it in English because this is coming from MLS Latina. She had, I assume they had a rundown of the comments, at least the big ones. There was supposed to be a video with it, but for whatever reason, that's not popping up on Twitter. I assume
usually with South American stuff, it's tough.
Yeah, some VPN stuff.
Yeah.
It's got the play button, but I don't know why it doesn't play. But anyways, so in English, they translate, he's angry because DeBoer talked about him to the press before talking to him. Mm-hmm. He does not like his style of play, but considers DeBoer a good person and wants to talk with him to fix it. Does not seek to leave the club.
Okay. So see, that's why it's important you're here to translate. It's not all gloom and doom here.
But also, why
would you not just take this to Frank DeBoer?
But also, I don't understand why you're making as big of a deal. Look, he said some things that he wasn't happy about, but he cleared it up where, I'm not looking to leave the club right now. I mean, he says that in the statement here. So I think it's more about, I was frustrated about some things and I wish the coach wouldn't talk about. Yeah, they need to have it out. I totally agree. But I also don't think this is like him committing Atlanta United career suicide or anything. I mean, it just seems to me it's a player that is upset at the way he was being handled by Frank DeBoer.
But this is I feel that this is, especially with how contentious everything seems between Pitti, with how the struggles with the season. This is something you keep in house, in my opinion. This is not something you just blather out.
Well, that's a very immature move. No, I agree.
But
with
from
that.
his perspective, he's saying, "Well, my manager didn't keep his criticism of me in house. Why should I do?"
That's a good point. That is a good point. Like if Frank DeBoer expects, himself to have the ability or whatever to, throw his players under the bus or call them out by name in public, then, I mean, shouldn't you expect that going both ways?
And Frank DeBoer has been critical of P.T. Martinez multiple times.
Right.
So, I mean, I think what was the most recent quote, that he was a danger to the team, and that's why he subbed him off early.
Yes.
Then there were some other quotes where you could kind of read between the lines about work rate and stuff like that. But clearly, P.T., this is something that's been building up with him for
Coming
a while.
from Fox Sports Argentina.
There you go.
If it were up to me, I'd be at River.
But then he also says,
I understand what he also says.
I mean, it's
but you got to look at the whole package.
Yeah.
You got to look at the whole package.
But that could also be his way of saying, yeah, if I had to do all over again, I wouldn't be at Atlanta United right now. But, he also says, it's not in my head to leave.
The thing is, this is the same guy who was talking about being essentially disrespected for not being looked at by teams in Europe. This is not something a player.
He definitely thinks very highly of himself, and I also think that he's not very mature from a sense that he came up through, the systems down in South America, and it seems like everything has come easy for him. And since he's played on good teams,
Doesn't he say his head is?
He says my head is
doesn't
not
have
with,
it in his head.
That's
to
what
go
I'm
back
saying.
with River.
Yeah.
Look. This is a where did I pull this from?
No tango and
This is a shot from Fox Sports Argentina.
Well, I think that based on the translations I'm seeing from
So
MLS Latina,
here's the one thing I will
that they are sensationalizing.
I will cut Pitti a break on it. We don't have the audio yet. We just have direct translation. Context is everything. So we got to hear how he says it. If the translation is actually if
the transcription
is actually accurate,
right? Because that's a big thing. No tengo en la cabeza volver a River. It's not on my head to return.
Yeah,
to
that
River.
means not.
So that would
si fuera por mí estaría en River.
That means yes.
If it were up to me, I would be.
So
at River.
he said contradictory things within the interview.
Well, I think, but this is how I read that. It's if it were up to me, I'd be back at River. Like he's saying, I wouldn't have made this move in the first place. But it's also him saying, I'm here now and I've got to, make the best about it. At least that's how it reads to me. Obviously, like Eric said, there's still full context that needs to be, withdrawn. And this happens a lot where you'll take a soundbite, run with it, and then you don't get the whole context of everything. So
I mean, there is a chance that maybe he said it was like, you know what, that is probably too strong. And in the interview,
and he
backed
walked
out.
Well, and I think even within the quotes, you can see that he even the quote where he talks about how Frank DeBoer's tactics are maybe not best suited for him.
Right.
He even goes on to say, I played under a much more attacking, faster tempo manager under Gallardo at River Plate, and naturally I'm learning in a new system under Frank DeBoer. So it's not like, these quotes are bad, and it's got to be tough to come back from them, but he doesn't seem completely gung-ho on leaving. I think he said he'd rather be at River, but he doesn't seem so upset where he's trying to force his way out in the short term.
I think he knows that he can't.
Probably.
That's I think it's financially impossible for him to actually do that. Contractually, even maybe.
Well, and it's also all so weird, like how the loan rumor came out and everything, and it's starting to look more and more like that's all like Pitti's camp, maybe an agent or something floating that kind of stuff out there just to see if there would be interest. And then obviously Pitti coming out and saying, stuff like this. The entirety of the interview is needed, and because even with the quotes, the way they're tweeted by MLS Latina or whoever, we don't know what order that's in. We don't know. Mm-hmm. So until you get exactly the context of everything around it, I just think this is certainly an interesting thing and something to definitely keep an eye on. But I don't know if this is Pitti outright saying, I want to get out of here, or if it's, I was having a bad time, but, maybe I need to buck up, and pick myself up by my bootstraps and get back to work.
But what does it say? And this is my bigger problem with it. If the plan is to eventually sell Pitti, who wants a player? I know there's problem players in Europe. I'm not saying there's not, but who really wants a player that's going to question the tactics?
It hurts his value. It hurts his value. He's hurting his own value. You're right.
It's one thing to go up to be like, listen, I don't agree with how you've you decided to line us up tactically, the tactics in general, the philosophy of the team. Sit down, have a conversation, maybe explain it better, maybe be able to help me understand what you're seeing that maybe I'm not seeing. Have that discussion. Don't go out on Argentine radio, who's going to make a effing field day out of
What
this.
he's doing. I think he knows what he's doing, though. That's the thing. And Eric, just to clarify quickly, Dirty South Soccer got a translation up here in the last couple minutes about the quote about wanting to return to River. The full translation is, there are no chances of going back to River. They draw conclusions from where there are none, and I assume he's talking about the media, and make people hope. People sent me thousands of messages, and I thank them. If it were for me, I would be at River, but there are differences with the technician, which I guess means. Does that mean
that's the Frank DeBoer?
Yeah,
okay, like the trainer,
Okay,
it does not happen because of that. So he it's funny. He's kind of saying, yeah, in a perfect world, I'd be.
That's what I was just saying. Like, he's like, man, if it really was up to me,
Right.
I'd be back at River. But obviously, that can't happen. And you would hope, because, like Ezequiel Barco last season, for example, showed extreme immaturity with the whole, romantic overtures, whatever you want to call it, extreme immaturity. But you know what he's done? Bounced back in the biggest way possible, and is having a hell of a season for Atlanta United. Pity Martinez is in that kind of weird, not in the graces of the fans because of some stuff that's going on. This is a big moment for him. If this interview was him saying, yes, I would like to be back at River, but I can't, so I have to make the best of this situation. If he can turn it around, because, Josh, we were talking about this on our way in here, he's coming off of maybe his best game of the year. I know it was the U.S. Open Cup, but he looked a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I was anticipating one of our topics tonight being, is PT finally rounding into form a little bit? He looked much better. I thought Emerson Hyndman brought him into the brought him into the match in the ways that other guys hadn't. And the next day we get this.
I said on the radio show yesterday, 7:00 every Wednesday.
That's what you said on the radio
Atlanta
show?
Sports X, no. Atlanta Sports X, 7:00 every Wednesday, Mouths of South radio show.
ATLSportsX.com.
I said that I want this match, considering it was against St. Louis FC, and St. Louis is what they are. They've had a fantastic run in Open Cup, but let's be realistic, Atlanta should actually dominate that game. The idea was, I want this to be kind of a launching point for the rest of the season for Pity Martinez. And I thought, okay, I didn't think he played great, but he did have the goal. He did have a moment. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's work off of that. And that was yesterday. He earned himself an inch and destroyed it by this.
Yeah, this really picked up steam very quickly. And it is bizarre. And I'll say this. Frank DeBoer, by openly calling players out by name in press conferences like that, it kind of opened the door for this. But I don't think this happened. You're talking about you want Pity, the player, to do this behind closed doors. That's a two-way street, man. Like if a manager's going to go, and look, I don't have a problem with what Frank DeBoer did, because as a fan, this is not directness. That's it. Yeah. This is not about team, player-coach relationship. This is about, as a fan, I want to know what's going on with the team. And Frank DeBoer is saying things that Tato Martino never would have said.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that it's a challenge. Like, look, I think obviously Tato Martino did this behind closed doors a lot more than
absolutely
Frank DeBoer
yes.
did. But I do like that he is singling out players specifically who aren't playing well, and it's obvious that they're not playing well.
Because that's as a fan, it's refreshing to see the coach actually call out players that you think aren't performing up to par.
See, I don't think that happens enough.
I totally agree with you.
Especially in a league like MLS.
But you've got to think about this from Pity's perspective, being like, what the hell is this coach doing, calling me out in public? And so he probably has, never had that happen, because I said this a minute ago. He comes from a soccer background where he's kind of had it easy, up to this point. And this is probably the first time in a foreign land, somewhere where he's not going to be coddled to, and he's probably not liking it. But this is the growing up portion. This is where you have to say, okay, I'm in, the bigger stage, a big boy world. Now I've got to act like it. And maybe he just wasn't ready to do that, because, Frank DeBoer's out here calling him out by name and not coddling him he might have had before.
I can't really blame Frank DeBoer for specifically mentioning these players, because it's the guys in the press conference asking the questions that are specifically pointing out players and how bad they're playing, specifically Pity. I'm trying to think of a different example, but whenever anyone does something wrong, Carlton, for example.
He's been very critical.
Same thing. It's not like these are surprises. Look at how Tata Martino treated Carlton last year. It's the same sort of deal.
Although not as explicit, I think.
Sure, he's being a little bit more direct.
I don't remember Tata ever talking about a player in a negative way.
And to me,
Carlton absolutely.
I mean,
but that's more off the field. So I'm saying for on the field, I don't ever remember Tata saying something specifically about one player and mentioning them by name.
Different managers handle the media differently. Yeah.
But he softened a little bit by saying, you know what, he's not 100% fit. He's still here. He's got to get used to the turf, the environment, the country, all that stuff, the playing style. He softened it up big time to say, look, give him time.
Yeah.
And you can tell based off yesterday, it looked like Joseph is like, yeah, give Pitti time. Mm-hmm. So everyone is like, all right, cool, we'll give him time, especially after last night. But you can't do this the day after and still expect that same sort of leniency, if you will.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's bad timing, and again, in a perfect world, he doesn't do this. But I think that look, I'm more on your side, Eric, than I think you think I am, because the only thing I'm trying to do here in terms of playing a devil's advocate is this is a player who. Yeah. Has never had this happen. Like he's never been. Things have never been his fault. You know what I mean? Like he was the South American Player of the Year somehow, and I just think that finally there's some animosity, not animosity, but there's some adversity, and he just handled it poorly, very poorly.
The future is what's interesting about this. I think as far as the interview, I think I think you did a good job of going through the quotes, Eric. He said some other stuff like, I want to stay in America a little while longer. So it is it's like, what are you trying to do? Because you're not really trying to force your way out immediately.
That's why I want to hear him actually say the words as well, because I think that with the full context of the audio, then you get a better sense of maybe in his voice you can hear that the struggle. Of the season.
And we're seeing now that P.T. Martinez, this is so weird, will be available to speak to the media tomorrow.
I heard they pulled that, though. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think they might have pulled that.
Okay.
Keep going.
But what's interesting, as I was going to say, is he's known for being very private, not speaking to the media much here. There was the stupid, quote-unquote, controversy about how reporters come into the locker room and talk to players here, and they don't in other countries. But happy to be very, very candid with the folks back home. And so that's certainly an interesting component to this too. And maybe does that show that he's still not in his comfort zone, that his communication is still going through a source in Argentina. I just think it's very interesting, and I want to see how, you guys talk about this being a big moment for him. I think how the club handles this is going to be very, very, very interesting, because I don't think you can move him in the short term. He's basically decreased his own transfer value by admitting he wants to go eventually.
He has
some transfer value. It's not like he has zero transfer value, but he's whatever that value is, he's reduced it by telling whoever the potential suitor might be, I already want to leave or don't see myself here long term. And we always said from the beginning, we saw a real chance that P.T. Martinez might play one season in Atlanta and leave. So maybe it's part of that. Maybe it's part of preparing ahead of time to try and get out in January and not have a Miguel Almiron situation where you're stuck around for all of preseason. I don't know.
Look, the professional way of handling an interview like this is like, look, obviously I'm in a new situation here in Atlanta United. I haven't been playing well. That's on me. I need to do better. I need to sit down with Frank DeBoer, find out what maybe more specifically what the expectation is of me in his system and how I can improve, the areas I need to work on best. You can expand on some of the things that you don't like about Frank DeBoer without being direct about how you don't like Frank DeBoer. Like, there are ways of doing that. A professional knows how to do that.
But at the same time, as a manager,
even Frank DeBoer did that.
Well, I'll say this: as a manager, whether you believe in calling players out or not, that's a whole different issue. But if he hasn't talked to Pitti, like if he went to the media and said all this crap and then never talked to Pitti about it, that's messed up. Like, dude, even in training or something, I feel like you wouldn't just want to let that fester like that. Like, if you're the manager and you said something and you clearly know that your player knows that you said it and you're not going to say anything to him about it.
From what I understand, he's still available for media tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean it's.
And I
mean, it just shows you what a bombshell. Like
wish I didn't
Atlanta
work.
United did not see that they are obviously totally blindsided by this, and that is the cherry on top that he has been made available for media tomorrow. You would never in a million years do that on the back of the rumors earlier this week about him going on loan. You know, you would never make him available, I think, to the media unless if you thought he was going to kind of exacerbate those rumors.
I can't
with the
imagine
comments he's made
I
tonight.
cannot imagine that Atlanta United will let him talk in front of more people.
Anybody want to tailgate in front of the training facility
Seriously.
I almost want to take bets as to whether he will or won't be in training tomorrow. If you have any questions in the chat, we're streaming on YouTube. You can always find us whenever we do the podcast streaming on YouTube live as we're recording it. Send a question in all caps or thought in all caps so we can know that it's specific to us.
And I want to talk about one, I think, important part of this. And I pat us on the back here at Mel's in the South podcast because I think we do a good job.
You want me to do it for you?
Yes. Could you pat me on the back?
I'm air patting you.
Thank you.
You got official.
Those are not bad lats there you just touched. But anyways.
Unclean.
But anyways, I think what we do a good job is when rumors come out, you don't say this is true, this isn't true. You say, where did this come from? What is this based on? And you saw the
nuance?
Right. I mean, can you imagine it? Disappointingly rational as we are hopefully will be widely known. I myself like to be known as that. But anyway,
a t-shirt just as disappointing.
I agree. But I think when those rumors came out, it was all about is it true? Are there clubs actually trying to get him on loan? Is River trying to get him back on loan? So instead of thinking about is it true or not, we should think about where's this rumor coming from. And quite clearly with P.T. Martinez's comments about not being super happy, it was coming from his camp. And he says straight up in the interview, like we said, if it was up to me, I'd be at River, even though it's likely not possible. So what do? You get your agent, you get your, someone in your family or whatever, and you float a rumor out there that you might go on loan back to River Plate. So I think a lot of people, in the media and fans made a big mistake here of talking too much about trying to debunk the rumor or instead of thinking about where is this coming from? Because it's not like it's very rare that journalists would just literally pie in the sky make up a rumor. Yeah. We had the Darren Eagles, of course, Miguel Almiron one, which is an example of that happening.
Clearly, you've never heard of Chris
someone,
Broussard,
right? Chris Broussard, right? Well, Chris Broussard I'm sure he talked to someone. He has bad sources, right? So you have sources.
I think you just
someone is going to someone and telling them this and getting this information. And so we needed to, at that time, be like, okay, maybe the loan is BS, but there's clearly, most likely, something deeper going on with P.T. Martinez, and this interview shows us that he's not totally happy in Atlanta. So I think people I think there was not speculating in the right way. You don't speculate, is the rumor true or not, because no one really knows. And of course, you trust some journalists more than others. You speculate, where is this coming from? Where is this momentum pushing us towards to? And in this case, it's not necessarily PT leaving, but it's that he's at the very least struggling to adjust.
The conversation around tomorrow's media availability is that it's full steam ahead.
Oh man!
Wow!
Baby.
And
my goodness,
I'm so nervous.
I think they'll have Justin. Justin has got to be the most nervous. He's still translating. He's gonna go translate.
I guess so.
He's just gonna be like,
here's the thing.
He's happy at the club. That's what he said.
You got to think the Spanish media will be there, and they don't hold back.
Oh no, that's gonna be.
You think Frank DeBoer's direct? The Spanish media is.
There's never going to be in terms of. There has never been a day at the training ground like this before in terms of media kind of flocking in there and having kind of an unknown, and the player with the unknowns whatnot is involved is there.
The more I think about it, though,
crazy.
The more it's the timing that bothers me.
I just can't get over. You just had a.
It's very weird.
Everyone will look at
it's poorly timed
as a good match for Pity. You score. You get the opening. The opening goal. You come away with the win. You advance to the second round. You look ahead to Seattle on Sunday. Everything's great. Mm-hmm. And then just the inch that you got in terms of graces from the fan base in general as a whole. You just kissed it all away.
It's bizarre. With this. I mean, he's clearly,
even if it's taken out of context,
but
the damage is done.
I could see
the damage is done, whether it's taken out of context or not.
I can see the frustration, though, of lack of direct communication, if that is indeed what happened. You know what I mean? Like, that's obviously something as a manager that and not just the manager, but the manager-player relationship. You want to know what your manager thinks of your play. And I mean, if he's going to go, spill it to the media and then, not really say anything. I mean, if that's the case of what happened, I mean, again, this feels like, yes, PT never should have done this. It's bad timing, all this stuff. But Frank kind of let it happen.
Okay. I don't disagree. I hope, and do you guys have much more to say on this?
I mean,
really.
I just think, I think Sam's right. I think that's why he did it. But as a player, particularly, a 26-year-old in his prime player that has played in some pressure situations, you get criticized. Not all managers are going to handle you like Tata much. Some guys I'm sure what Frank DeBoer says, he wants to motivate his players. He's not saying it to embarrass them. When he says Andrew Carlton needs to work on his professionalism to make the U.S. youth national team, he's saying that because he wants him to go do it. And personally, if I knew anything about the history of soccer and Frank DeBoer, who was one of the best passing defenders, holding midfielders, fantastic players, played at Barcelona, says something like that about me, I would listen. I wouldn't go. And again, PT can do what he wants, but I think it's a bizarre reaction for a guy of that stature. And I know he hasn't had great success in Europe, but other than Ajax, but he's been around. Why, when a guy like that criticizes you, your reaction should be to take that to heart and see what you can do better.
I don't know exactly when media availability is. I know it's typically in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume tomorrow around 10 o'clock. But again,
usually around 10.
Don't hold me specifically to that time, but it's usually around 10 o'clock in the morning. No, so what I was going to say, to wrap this up, what I hope happens after this is Darren Eales, Carlos Bocanegra, whoever is going to handle the situation. I assume Carlos because he speaks Spanish. Sits both of them down, be like, look, I'm going to close the door. You guys work it out.
That's true.
Because neither of you are going anywhere.
Like you said,
Frank DeBoer doesn't deserve it to be fired.
No.
For any of what's going on right now at this point. And Pity Martinez, as much as I'm down on him, he still deserves time to actually get things turned around. I don't know what that future for Pity with Atlanta United actually looks like because I don't see how it can really develop much more than it already has. But he does deserve the time to prove me wrong.
Wait, are there people actually out there saying Frank DeBoer should be fired?
No. I'm not saying that. But
lots of other
what I'm
reasons
saying is
they want him fired, but not this.
The idea is that Pity is clearly unhappy. I think he would encourage a move. I don't know that someone like Frank DeBoer might necessarily disagree right now. There's a reason that this back and forth is happening right now. Mm-hmm. Behind the scenes, it's supposed to right in their faces. So what I'm hoping happens is Carlos Bocanegra, Darren Eales, if this is even the case, we got to remember that the context, we don't have the full scope of what's going on behind the scenes. But if this is the case, if they're just kind of drawing back at each other and they don't like each other, and
mediation
they're
is
having
required
issues,
at this point.
Throw them in a room together, lock the door, make them work it out because neither of them.
That's how you do it. And that's what we're gonna. As I think these quotes will not be what we're addressing going forward. It will be what is the relationship between PT Martinez and the manager? How do his teammates respond to him? And that's something we'll be able to tell by watching on the field. I think that was something when Ezequiel Barco first came back from his suspension. You could see that it took him a little bit of time to get his teammates' trust back. It took him a little time for Tata Martino to feel comfortable starting him, although he ended up coming off the bench in the postseason anyway. It's going to be similar with PT Martinez. We're going to have a very good idea of whether that relationship between him and DeBoer is repaired based on how he plays on the field.
Hopefully he shows out against Seattle. And he's just like, you know what?
And that's the main thing about what he did, I think, is you put all of this for everybody to see. So now everybody's going to relate your performance on the pitch, to the team's performance on the pitch, to your happiness and whether you want to be here long term. So he's created a tough situation for himself and for the team.
Quick poll on the YouTube chat. If you think this is my or / the Dread God's fault, just show of hands, the hand emoji. That's
a slash means and or, right?
That's all we'll take. Just throw it up on the chat. Let's see how many hands we get. So of course there are some people that obviously blame me. Let's talk about the US Open Cup because we did have the match last night. We see the first of Emerson Hyndman, and by all accounts, he did really well.
I was watching the game today, watching Emerson Hyndman, and I was ready to come in and give you a whole spiel on him, and then PT ruins it all.
He was going to be the focal point.
Thought
that the entire match last night was going to be the focal point of our discussion. We're going to do this, maybe a little World Cup, a little CONCACAF, and then we're going to be done.
It's going to be a nice, easy
evening,
stress-free.
Decided, you know what? Eric, I don't like Eric's schedule. Let's mess it up.
So I thought first of all, to put a bow on the match, yes, it was 1-0, but I thought it was a very comfortable 1-0. I think Frank DeBoer would be happy with the performance, and you didn't really feel like you were eking by against the USL side. You were very comfortable after you went up 1-0. But with respect to Emerson Hyndman, watching him is very, very interesting, and especially the way he fits in. He played basically in that spot that we've seen Julian Gressel struggling. We've seen Darlington Nagbe struggle in as the highest of the three center midfielders. And he's a little bit of he's like an attacking midfielder, but he has definitely an element of box to box to his game.
So can I?
Yeah.
The one thing I liked about him that I saw pretty frequently enough to where I noticed it, he is searching to get his teammates out of trouble.
Yes.
In specific moments, which I absolutely love, because no one else in this. That was sort of what Almiron did. Obviously, Emerson Hyndman was going to do it in a different way.
Yes. So,
but that's the one thing that Almiron gave you, is that he got your team out of tricky situations, whether it's being pressed at a specific point in the field. He was able to he put himself in those situations where he was available.
I think as far as press, he's very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you look at the goal is him winning the ball back.
Yeah, obviously he's not going to be as
he's not a dribbler type,
Exactly,
but I think what he does is he adds so much balance to the attack. We've sit here and talked so much over the last month or so about how Atlanta United have struggled in the final third, and part of it has been, well, why is P.T. Martinez getting the ball 40 yards from goal instead of in the final third? Same thing for Justin Miram. Why is Joseph Martinez sometimes having to drop all the way back? And I know some of that is DeBoer's system into possession. A big part of that is just because those players are not, when they get the ball in the last third, they want to go to goal. Now you have a player in Emerson Hyndman who can pull a defender with him, get the ball, and quickly distribute to one of those other more creative attackers in the final third. I think he plays the 10 like Jeff Laurentowicz plays the 6, where he's in position at all times. He works hard, but when he gets it, he's just looking to quickly find someone.
Which is kind of what Frank DeBoer wants.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And you could see, particularly in the second half, how many times he got on the ball and then was able to find Justin Miram or P.T. Martinez in advanced, dangerous positions. And that makes so much of a difference when you have a guy that can do that instead of those guys having to do the work themselves and dribble into those positions or combine into those positions or whatnot. So you could see, particularly against a bunkering defense in St. Louis, how much it helps to have a guy like that can just float into the spaces, get there, and then when he gets it, he's very comfortable holding up, not holding up the ball, but distributing quickly to a P.T. Martinez, to a Justin Miram. We'll see him do it to Barco, to Joseph Martinez in the future. Then get those creative guys space and let them do work. You didn't have a guy like that before. Julian Gressel struggled to do that.
He's not holding up play, but he's holding up enough to where he can find the best.
Like I said, it's like when
he's not allowing a team like St. Louis to really be able to settle themselves defensively.
It's like when we see Jeff Laurentowicz, I think of 2000, and of course they're totally go there. I see your back.
No, I was gonna say, when was the last time we saw a turnover in Atlanta United's final third that turned into a goal?
Right. I mean,
in 2019, we haven't seen that. I don't think.
Not often.
Maybe
I mean, that's
once.
one of the reasons you've had defensive
and
success.
We saw that out of Emerson Hyndman.
Yeah.
For the first goal.
And again, the reason I compare him to Laurentowicz, they're totally different positions, but their thought on the ball. So where Laurentowicz plays defensive mid, his thought is, I'm getting this ball, 2-3 touch, I'm progressing it into the next third. Hyndman is the same way, except he plays in the attack. And he gets the ball underneath the striker or whatever in the last third, and he's thinking, I'm getting rid of this as quickly as possible. Now, that's not going to work with some teams where they're also going to rely on you to score goals. But here he has guys around him who can do that.
But
so
you know who loves that too is Joseph, because Joseph wants someone
loves that.
in that position that's not going to want to hold on to the ball. That's going to want to get it to him as quickly as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got the comment of the night. All right.
Oh, wow.
Ready for this?
Oh, boy.
Tommy Moose, you have won the comment of the night. Have we seen this plot before? Gordon Bombay equals Tata. Score a lot of goals. Mighty Ducks 3. New coach teaches them how to play defense.
Right.
Yes, I'm three drinks.
Yeah, but they don't actually get things back
yes,
under control.
Yes, you are 3 drinks in if you go to D3.
In D3, though, in D3, they don't get stuff back under control until Gordon Bombay shows back up, though. Remember?
That's true.
Gotta get the pep time.
That's what I'm saying.
Gotta get the pep time.
So you still need the.
And it's the Bass brother that shows up out of nowhere.
That's right.
Right.
Is that Fulton?
The middle. That movie had so many holes in it.
And
he shows up in the middle of the season, toward the end of the semester, I think.
Why are we talking about D3?
He wasn't eligible.
That's the stupidest.
He had the scholarship, okay?
And then Charlie Conway gave that interview to the South American press about wanting to transfer.
talk about
that's
You got to talk about how Iceland is covered in green and Greenland's covered in ice.
I've never heard.
The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, that's true. Number
Which
two.
one's
I've never.
the cat. Julie the cat.
She's
Julie,
the goalie,
That's
right?
two. Yeah.
Julie, what's her name though? Julie
Julie the cat.
something.
Yeah. I don't know. She was fantastic though.
Anyways,
Yeah.
moving on. There you go. Yeah.
How did he know that?
I don't know.
Anyways, well, D3 Mighty Ducks references really throw me off. But so can I say one more thing about
Go ahead.
Hyndman? So what I just described is completely different from what Julian Gressel does. And we've seen him struggle specifically with that role when he's played underneath, just completing short, simple passes under pressure in the last third, which is tough to do because that's when the defense collapses back. Julian Gressel is more of that final ball guy, play a guy in behind, look to shoot from distance, try to put it across. He struggles with just simple passes in the last third. And when you have someone that can do that, it just makes things so much easier for creative players around them. So that's going to help Julian Gressel if he plays out wide with an Emerson Hyndman. I think you have a unique type of player there that can bring that balance and attack that we've really, really been missing. Can he hold up physically? Can he do better against better competition? Time will tell.
So for me, he showed that he is. I don't want to slot him into that pressure, I guess, just yet. But he shows that there's a high likelihood that he could be a regular starter on this team.
And at the very least, he gives you something different than the other guys who play that role.
My problem is not my problem. The problem for Frank DeBoer, if he does establish himself, because what he did against St. Louis, I know it was against St. Louis. I know who they are. I get that. Context is everything. But what he did is something that I feel like this team has needed for the entire first half.
Well, it's more about his style of play,
Right.
right? I mean, which is not going to change, I don't think, from St. Louis to Seattle this weekend.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that being said, given what he gives you in the midfield, I have a strong feeling that he's going to be kind of thrusted into a starting position in that similar role, which means Gressel and Tito are probably off.
Yeah, because I think when
Coming off the bench
you
much more.
probably, with a player like that, then you can absolutely move Barco wide. Because
Yes.
as we just discussed, you have a player in Hyndman who can find him in dangerous positions
Mm-hmm.
already, whereas before Barco was playing the 10. He had to come back and get it and drive the team forward.
So Pinty might get squeezed out anyway.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
It depends on how obviously Frank DeBoer handles the situation that
Right.
happened today, and two how Pity Martinez really fits
My thought
specifically playing on that right side.
before the
Not that he hasn't done it,
PT
but-
interview was if you had a match tomorrow and you had a full squad, you based on what you saw in St. Louis, you give Hyndman the chance in that kind of, like we said, that he's listed as a 10, but he's more of an 8 and a 10, and then you play Barco and PT inverted on the left and right, and that would be what you did. Of course, Hyndman's going to have to keep his performance at a high level to do that, but I think that would fit really, really nicely to have a center mid that can drop a little deeper, come and help defensively, receive the ball from your two holding mids and progress into the next third, and then you let Barco and PT do what they like in the final third.
Well, I'm obviously putting the cart way before the horse because we still have to make sure that that Emerson Hyndman not only progresses with
Absolutely.
this team, develops.
All we're saying is his style of play
Right,
is an
right.
intriguing fit.
It's something that I did not see much of in the first half of the season.
Absolutely.
And now that he's here, now that we've seen what he looks like stylistically, going into the second half, I'm like, oh my gosh, this has got to be the missing link for this team.
At least in
terms of-
some matchups.
In terms of connecting, the final third or the defensive third with the final third, because it just seemed like everything was either over the top or things got lost in Barco's speed or Pity's speed. That seems like theoretically would change with Emerson in the same position he was against St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, and it's exactly what you
honestly, I'm like, fingers crossed, please.
Yeah,
I will
if
absolutely.
he can play that style at a high level in the league, then you've got at the very least a nice kind of curveball you can throw at folks compared to a player there like Julian Gressel. He's totally different. He's totally different than PT Martinez. Totally different than Ezekiel Barco there.
It would
Completely different type of 10.
It would obviously hurt the playing time of Tito, hurt the playing time of Gressel, and I think those are the two. I mean, okay, not the two automatic guys that are relegated to the bench.
Yeah, I don't think Gressel gets affected as much.
Who knows what happens with
Well,
PT
it just depends
too
on what
on the
happens
right.
with Pity.
Yeah.
If Pity gets relegated to the bench, then I think the first choice
Right now is Gressel.
first
but
choice on the right is Gressel.
when
Yeah.
Tito comes back,
exactly.
we'll see. But
It's so weird.
But even with Tito, I still think because again, I Frank DeBoer sees Tito a specific way.
What do you call it? Champagne problems? Or
Champagne
what?
problems.
Yeah,
Oh, I love
exactly.
that.
If it wasn't for
Champagne problems.
Pete kind of threw a wrench into the being like a pleasant problem to have,
Well,
but you got some depth there that you maybe didn't have this, a month ago.
It's so funny how Darren Eales, Carlos Bocanegra, Tata Martino, kind of built this team to be able to play like a South American team, and now we're watching Frank DeBoer and the front office shift and mold it into what Frank DeBoer wants. So that's like even less possible playing time for Tito. You pushing these guys out. You bring in Emerson Hyndman, who has played in Europe, plays the position and plays the style that Frank DeBoer wants a little more. So it's just interesting to watch the dynamics of this team shift.
All right, can I go full circle with this Mighty Ducks analogy?
Sure.
Again, from Tommy Moose. Sorry, one last Mighty Ducks comment. Assad is the Bash brother who shows up at the last game of the season to win the championship. Good night, world. That's perfect. I mean, Assad obviously isn't the Bash brother, but you get the point. Just laugh with me, man. Come on.
It's like, wow, he really he wanted to complete the story for everybody.
I think I have to go watch the Mighty Ducks trilogy when I get home.
Yeah,
here's every Mouths of the South listener's homework assignment. We go watch D3 the Mighty Ducks, and we
watch all three if you haven't.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm
series.
not just going to
Whole
watch
series.
D3. If I have to watch D3, I'm going to watch the.
Is that on Netflix yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think that's.
It'll be on Disney.
It'll be
for
on
sure.
Disney Plus.
For
I think
sure.
I have an old VHS in my house somewhere.
We all go watch the Mighty Ducks series, and we all come up with our we all match
and
the analysis.
tweet at us your favorite player if you already know at MOTS Podcast. Who is your favorite player in the 3 Mighty Ducks movies? And tell us why.
Knuckle Puck.
You like Knuckle Puck?
Knuckle Puck.
How is he eligible? They got him like off the street hockey game and brought him.
Well, because they were playing in the Junior Olympics. Remember that didn't
Just
have
recruit
anything to
anyone.
do. Well, no, that didn't have anything to do with like their
I
region.
don't know. They have some. They're like the Barcelona of youth hockey. There's some clear tampering.
I'm just saying, man.
Situations.
Once Knuckle Puck got involved, you knew things were about to go down.
Yeah.
All right.
Keenan Thompson.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously a fantastic result for Atlanta United in the U.S. Open Cup. I think that we now know who we face in the semifinals. That's going to be Orlando City. We play in Orlando against the moving wall that is the Orlando City fan base.
The moving wall.
Oh, that was funny. I'm not going to lie. That was pretty
That
funny.
was great. That was very U.S. Open Cup.
So here's the deal. We're absolutely losing that match.
Well,
We're 100%.
well, that's the best news
Scrolling
I've
back
heard all
to the
day.
chat
I
to
think
see
we're
when
going to
people
lose.
wanted to know when the Dread God was coming.
It's the magic of the cup that Orlando City needed in order to beat Atlanta United. This is going to be – it's going to hurt because it actually means something.
Man, Eric is really
Orlando City is going to be able – even though they would have only beaten us in that one match, not even a MLS regular season play or playoffs or anything like that, but in a completely different tournament, they'll be able to hold it over us because even though they haven't won anything else, that actually meant something.
I get the Dread God and everything, but you can't actually predict Orlando to beat Atlanta. That's like the one thing we can't do.
This is the most Atlanta thing happening in our faces as we're seeing it.
We're going to beat Orlando.
This is the most Atlanta thing that's going to happen to us.
We're going to beat Orlando. Not only are they going to beat Orlando,
August 7th.
Andrew Carlton is going to score the winning goal. How about that?
I like just prepare yourselves, okay?
How about this?
I'm telling you, it's a blessing and a curse to predict the future. And the last few times I've done this, I've tweeted things out. I've been absolutely right.
If you predicted a negative thing, if you said something positive.
No, I predicted the positive thing last night against U.S. Open Cup. 5 minutes left. I was like, guys, relax. We've got this. They had 6 or whatever corners back to back to back. None of them went in.
Yeah, thank God you're playing.
So come on.
If it wasn't Tony Pulis' son playing a 5-4-1 when they're trailing by a goal with 5 minutes left, we might have been screwed on that one.
Go back to our shows before the season started and how little we cared about U.S. Open Cup when we were prioritizing things. I think we were all like, oh, yeah, they got to go gung-ho after the CONCACAF Champions League. We all saw how that worked out. But now this team could get into the next CONCACAF Champions League
just by U.S. Open
just by winning this. And it's almost like this right now has become the most important thing. It's crazy.
In some ways,
it's completely crazy because they got to the semifinals.
Well, no. It was always going to be important against a team like St. Louis FC. I was actually surprised that Frank DeBoer went with that strong a lineup. But
when Joseph was up top, I was
no. I thought that was going to happen because he didn't play much with.
That's true. You need to get him back.
He traveled back, and he's got to be reacclimated with the team.
That's crazy to me, by the way, that he's not like their starting striker.
Who else did
Rondon is really good for Venezuela.
Who else was I surprised that they were starting?
I mean,
Emerson Hyndman we knew about.
is Not really. I mean, he pretty much went on form with everyone. Here was the big.
I expected Dion Pereira in for like Miram. I expected
yeah, maybe he didn't rotate in some situations
rotate at
you'd
all, though,
expect,
really?
but it's pretty much the same team. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Hindman for Gressel.
I mean, good for him. Look, that's a moment where, if you're going to take it seriously, that's where you want to start in the quarterfinals against a team that
One
you should
thing
handle.
about the 18 you dressed against St. Louis.
No Carlton.
Yes. You know what I was going to say, yeah. No Andrew Carlton. So we were talking about how, it was so crazy how after Passport Gate, he was back in the 18
That's a
so
numbers
quickly.
game.
But you only had 18 healthy bodies, we speculated. And then
Right.
Frank DeBoer basically purposely ignored playing him in Chicago. When you're trailing 5-1, you might as well put a young player, and he puts in Breck Shea and Mikey Ambrose. He subs in 2 left backs, okay? And then you need a goal against Red Bulls last week, and you go with Brandon Vasquez and Jeff Laurentowicz when you need a goal. And then the moment you have 18 healthy bodies, when Emerson Hyndman comes in, Carlton's out of the 18. So he was still, in my mind, serving a de facto suspension, despite the fact that he was
travel,
despite the fact that he was dressing in the 18. That's complete speculation. But he started the Open Cup match against the Battery. He came on against Columbus. He played well in both. You usually dress your young players in Open Cup matches, and Carlton doesn't even dress. After he did dress in the last 2 matches, it pretty much confirms that you dressed him because he had no choice. You had no other healthy bodies. You did everything you could not to play him. And now he's back on the outside looking in when it comes to the 18.
Eric does need a Snickers bar. It's in the comments.
Is that
Who am I going to turn into?
Is that keto friendly or whatever?
Keto?
Keto. What am I talking
Keto.
about? I like
Keto.
keto.
I still can't get over the fact this dude puts butter in his coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Those
Butter.
keto
So,
people are weird.
butter, it's a serving of butter.
And he's a
serving
CrossFit
of
guy.
coconut oil.
Double strange.
And what's the other thing I put
But
in
you
there?
put coconut oil in there too?
Coconut oil, a serving of butter, serving of coconut oil, a serving of heavy whipping cream.
Is coconut oil for eating?
Yeah, you can cook stuff in it.
Oh, okay.
You can oil
It's
pull.
like olive oil,
Oil pulling.
or avocado oil.
Oil pools?
Oil pulling.
Oil pulling.
So you put like a dab of coconut oil in your mouth. It doesn't necessarily need to be coconut
You
oil.
like swish it?
You switch it around. Really good for your teeth and gums.
Okay.
Very good.
Interesting. I got distracted when you said dab, so.
Little dab.
Wow, very subtle, Josh. Very subtle.
Well, did you see what Eric just tried to actually do a dab?
That's my first dab ever.
That was terrible. I'm around 9-year-olds
Agreed.
coaching a lot, and they are much better than you at dabbing.
You know what,
The
I
dab
wasn't
is good
surprised.
for coughing.
So Seattle on Sunday.
Seattle
Let's
on
quickly
Sunday.
touch on that. We were planning to do a great preview of this, but PT. This is even more fascinating now because
Before.
Yeah.
U.S. Open Cup against Orlando in Orlando, August 7th. I'm sure the time.
Eric says we're going to lose.
I'm sure the time will be determined. Just prepare yourself.
My
Look, I hope I'm wrong. 100%. I hope I'm
My
wrong.
birthday is the 8th, so I'll be
Just prepare
really
yourself.
upset if they.
Just like I was before the season, super in on Champions League and trying to do well on that. Atlanta United need to go ahead and win this thing now. I mean, you can go ahead and secure yourself another
They got a
Champions League
chance.
spot. Because here's the thing: I think next year, a full year under Pitti, he's got to study things, how they go in this hemisphere of the world a little bit. I didn't Pitti, I meant Frank DeBoer. I think Frank's going to have the team much more ready for a Champions League in year 2 than he did, with very little time to prepare this year.
I really hope that it's that we're talking about playing Minnesota in the finals if we were to get past Orlando, because I don't know that this team can beat Portland right now, not without Adamino.
Portland has certainly been interesting since they've sort of redone their roster a little bit, getting rid of Adi, and things like that, over the past few seasons. And Diego Valeri is still Diego Valeri. So
Yeah, he's gonna make magic happen. It's
Right,
magic in the
yes.
cup, man. I'm
They have a
telling
good goal scorer now in Fernandez, out and out 9. So
you. Be afraid of the combination of Orlando City and the magic of the cup. That's all I'm saying.
and Eric.
That's all I'm saying. I actually might even be down there
Oh,
at the
really?
I might.
Oh,
I thought
now,
you
yeah,
said
we're
you
gonna
can't
lose
go to
now.
Orlando, man. They don't like you down there. You've pissed too many of those people off.
My hope is that in my presence, that I rub up against enough Orlando City supporters that the Dread God then just gets passed on to someone else, preferably an Orlando City
That's
supporter.
I think they've got fine Dread God down there, whoever it is.
Well,
We can revel in how it can get worse.
if I'm going to Orlando, it's going to be to go to Universal to get a Duff beer at the Moe's Tavern, way before it would be to step foot anywhere near that cesspool of a stadium.
It's a nice stadium.
It is a nice stadium.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
gonna crumb this
yeah.
stadium.
Well, I say it's a cesspool because of what's
The
inside
inhabitants.
of the stadium.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. All right. So Seattle Sounders 3:55 p.m. That's what it says on Google.
That's a weird time.
I imagine that's a 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
kick.
I'm thinking like 4:15 even. That happening on Sunday. How does Atlanta United kind of bounce back within MLS play? They're still not that far off the top spot. They're still in third, 30 points. Philadelphia 36 in number 1. For as bad as it's, and I'm going to say this as long as you're still not in a bad position in the standings. For as tough as this season has been, it's impressive that Atlanta United is still right in the mix of things, right within arm's reach of potentially taking the top spot in the East. I don't think they're going to get supporter shield because LAFC are already with 43 points. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, Atlanta United still got 2 games in hand over Philadelphia Union, so you got to look into that, take that into account. It's all Atlanta United is in a great position considering where they are. Do I think that they're going to enter the playoffs as the number 1 seed? In all likelihood, probably not. But I do think they can fight for a home match and a first round bye.
If they are good enough to do that, Eric, to fight for the number 1 seed, we might get an idea against Seattle on Sunday. They're undefeated at home this year, 7 wins, 2 draws. So if you want to, I think at some point we'd like to see, and I don't think it's going to happen this weekend. You're still not fully healthy. The PT stuff's not going to help. And you're going to play, an extremely good side who are one of the best teams in the league at home. But at some point, Atlanta United is going to have to send a message to the rest of the league that they're still, the defending champions, that they're still going to be around at the end. And this is an opportunity to do it. I don't think you're going to do it, though. Seattle, you're getting back to full strength with Jordan Morris and company getting back there from the Gold Cup. Win 2 of your last 3. Tough to beat at home. Another thing about Seattle that I've noticed this season is that they're a very good team on the counterattack. They scored a bunch of goals on the counter. We've seen Atlanta look at times a little bit vulnerable to counterattacks when they get caught forward. So it's going to be a very tough match. But, to kind of go full circle to where we started, I think all eyes are going to be on PT. And if I'm Frank de Boer, I think you create much more of a distraction if you don't start him. Because I think eventually your goal is to get him back into the 11, right? He's, if you don't start him this weekend, we already learned he's a little bit sensitive to kind of this public treatment from his manager. If you bench him, there's no more public insult of a player than that than sitting them on the bench.
So my thing is, how big is, and this will be the first time I think we actually truly see it, how big is Frank's ego? Because if he has a big ego, and I don't think he does, but if he has a big ego, he's not.
I'm sure he's got some.
I'm sure he's got some. Every professional coach has some.
Yeah.
But is it enough to where it's a fault?
Well, it's almost a philosophical question of what his philosophy as a manager is.
What I'm saying is that does he have the stones to put Pity in essentially the same doghouse that Carlton's in right now?
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
And let's be real, it's a lot easier to call Andrew Carlton unprofessional and suspend and more or less suspend him, keep him off the field than it is a guy like
I
Martinez.
hope that's not how this is handled, though. I don't think this is as big of a disciplinary thing as like even we were talking about with Barco or stuff with Carlton. Like this is him going out expressing displeasure with the way that the coach is handling him. Honestly, I want to happen what Eric said earlier, get them in a room, hash this out, and move on and not allow it to affect. Like, I don't necessarily think Pitti needs punishment here. And if he's playing well enough to help the team out, he needs to be playing.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is something that egos need to be pushed aside. Hopefully Darren Eales, Carlos Bocanegra, whoever can get these two to sit down, hash this out. Because if you could get any indication from how well Pitti played against St. Louis, and he is turning a corner the way he's playing, then you'd be dumb to not play him. Yeah, you've invested too much money.
I tend to agree, and I think from a discipline standpoint, I would start him too. I don't think it's nearly as bad unless it's affecting the rest of the team. And that's the thing. Frank de Boer is going to have to get an idea of how if the team comes in and they're like, all right, we are not united behind this guy, who's big time signing, all eyes on him. We've had issues with him, obviously. And now he's saying he doesn't want to be here. So, but I think one of the great things about the team is, particularly with integrating South American players from a different culture, is you've got a great support system within the team that can hopefully talk to him, keep him happy. Because for me, if he wants to leave after the season, I'm cool with that. He's 26 years old. If he wants to move on, that's fine. But you can't be creating these types of distractions within the season because that hurts the whole team, not just you.
I think this is a big moment for Frank DeBoer in terms of how this is handled.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I can't wait to see.
Right, because again, this is not just about Pitti. This is about showing the entire team how you would handle a similar situation if one of them did something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think that, I don't think necessarily this is about, because I don't think this would affect the players. And like you look at other sports and players are way more supportive of each other in that fraternity of players than they are outside, whether that's management, whether that's whatever.
Absolutely.
So I don't think this is going to affect the team in terms of like them saying, oh, Pitti shouldn't have done this or whatever. I think they're going to have his back. What I really think this is in terms of the way it'll affect the team is how Frank DeBoer handles this.
Yeah, you're right.
And if it's an ego thing where he's like, how dare him go out and say those things in the media, he's going to get punished, I think that's a bad look for Frank. So it is very intriguing how he's going to handle
I'm fascinated because I hope it's hashing it out behind the scenes and then
moving on.
And then if he wants to leave after the season, you deal with it then.
I think considering the personality of the front office as a whole, I think a lot of this is going to be handled internally, and it's going to be handled in a way that's ultimately viewed as okay, it was done professionally.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. And there's hopefully, it's
tomorrow there's another interview that comes up.
Right. I mean, who knows? Well, there's going to be an interview. He's going to talk.
Oh
to
yeah,
the press.
you're right.
Hopefully, he'll talk to the press. Well, I guess there won't be enough time for him to say, I've sat down with Frank DeBoer, we've talked about it, but I don't think there would have been time for that to have happened between now and 10, 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, not in the sense that it's going to be a revolutionary experience for him and his mindset on the team, I guess. It's not going to be.
Can we live stream, Joe Patrick? Can you live stream that on Dirty South? This is a situation you have. This has never happened for Atlanta United. Despite all the transfer rumors that you've never had a player come out and say, at least that I remember. I mean, maybe some of the maybe lesser players, but you've never had one of your big time transfer names come out and say, I'm not happy here.
Seattle beating Columbus 2-1 in the last MLS match on the 6th, and we'll see how Atlanta United handles Nico Lodeiro and company. It'll be interesting to see how everything kind of unfolds.
It's
heading into Sunday.
Tough fixture. I mean, and you're playing like I said, a Seattle team that I think is strong where you're weak.
They're also in third, 32 points in the season, 19 matches played.
And I think a lot of their kind of tailing off in form recently had to do with losing players to the Gold Cup. I don't think
especially a guy like Nico Lodeiro.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at the way that they started the season, and then you kind of look at their form over the last month or so, where they've been, more or less dropping as many points as they've picked up. I think the first part of the season is much more representative of the type of team they are. And you'll probably start to see that team this weekend as Lodeiro comes back, Christian Roldan comes back, Jordan Morris comes back. I think Leardon was gone. So they were missing a lot of guys over the last month. And they're going to start to play their best soccer again this weekend, which is not what you want if you're Atlanta United.
All right. You can tweet at us at Eric T. Quintana. Josh?
At JoshB914.
Same.
At Sam J. Franco. Pretty soon, formerly of Athens.
Boom.
Yeah.
Hide your kids.
No more.
Franco's coming to Atlanta. Hide your wife. Hide your kids.
Daddy's coming home.
You can
prove my point
at the podcast at MOTS podcast. Make sure all you new watchers of the stream subscribe to the podcast. This is and naturally I didn't expect that this was going to be the lowest watched or the lowest?
The highest watch.
It's the highest, but I didn't expect it to be the lowest because the news happened right before.
We had people waiting already.
We never had this many live.
11 people waiting. I think we had somewhere around 50 people watching at any given time.
You can do this every week with us. And
subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every Wednesday or Thursday, just depending on the schedules. Radio show every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Atlanta Sports X, 12:30 a.m., 13:40 a.m., 106.3 FM, and 103.7 FM. I'm pretty sure that last one's right. Make sure you join us.
You always forget that one.
I always forget the
I think that's 103.7 is correct.
Yeah.
You got it.
Any final thoughts, guys?
D3 sucks. Why did we talk about that?
This was
Tony moves, Mr. Quack Quack.
This was a fun podcast. I just, again, with the PT stuff, context, he's frustrated, but he's not forcing his way out the door.
This entire podcast has been done with the understanding, without the understanding of the full context of the pity tweets.
Yes,
We have not actually heard them.
but
Reckless speculation.
But again,
Yes.
we can
that
I
reckless,
think
but-
say without, we can't say without a shadow of doubt the tone of what he's saying is not for I get me the crap out of here. It's in a perfect world I'd be at River, which is not a smart thing to say publicly for all the reasons that we've discussed, but it's not like he's trying to get a transfer out of Atlanta tomorrow.
Yeah, just in a few months.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If you want to go in January, that's fine.
Hey, ball out for the rest of the season.
I think that might have been
You're good
expected
to
the
go.
whole way. Yeah.
All right. That does it for us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until next time. See you later, Atlanta.
Take the fall at hurt.
Get indignant. That's that. Don't you know that? You guys are ready.
Yeah, dude.
Spazway.
You're not up on your
Stir it
mighty
up.
ducks, bro. Come on.
Bye, everybody.
I know Goldberg. That's it.
Goldberg was the man.
All I know is